Seasons change.
Hi, I'm Greg.
And I'm Betsy.
And we host a podcast called Going on 30.
Each month, Greg and I discuss movies that were nominated or should have been nominated for Best Picture 30 years ago.
Yeah, it's definitely a risky business, but we'd be losing it if we didn't discuss the legend of Oscar caliber movies.
That's a little dramatic, but sure. We give our takes on one movie each month, debate its lasting legacy, and talk about its place in cinema history.
You know, Betsy, in these days of thunder, when far and away a few good men are going through life with their eyes wide shut to the firm hold that the color of money has over the film industry, it's just a night and day difference between the beautiful magnolia of the top guns of the business and the oblivion of the edge of tomorrow of American-made franchise.
Okay, all right. I think I threw up in my mouth a little bit. I know what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm having a cocktail while I give you my Minority Report on the War of the Worlds.
Stop it. You are listing just Tom Cruise movies. I'm done.
That is just Mission Impossible. Ghost Protocol.
Okay, so listen to Going on 30 whenever you get the Poppy College feed.
Jerry Maguire, the Mummy. Jack Reacher, the Vanilla Sky Rain Man.
God, you have a deep, deep problem, my friend.
I'll be glad when you're dead, you rascal, you. When you're dead and in your grave, no more women will you crave. I'll be glad when you're dead, you rascal, you.
Hey, what am I doing?
We were just talking
Knight.
about colorectal cancer and Adam Sandler's colon. That's staying in the episode. Cold open.
I know, I got distracted. I was too busy thinking about Uncut Gems. I'm Greg Knight.
Ryan Parker.
And this is PCTV, a Popping Collars side project where Ryan and I tell you what you should be streaming right now. This month, we are talking about the Netflix series Death by Lightning.
We're on the precipice of something desperately exciting.
I made a vow to end the rot in our party.
President James Garfield! All I want is to be a part of it. My name is Charles Guiteau.
What line of work are you in?
Politics.
Jim, you're their leader. Your job is to inspire hope.
Perhaps I can't change anything.
We will not run from the battle. Now go show those bastards who we are.
All I want to do is help.
Who is this man? What is he doing here?
You are a seeker, an opportunist,
Mr. President!
and a pest.
Eat shit, I'm a taxpayer.
Mr. President, I'm begging you, tell me how I can be great.
Men like us, we have to claw our way up.
I can make an impact.
There is a greater destiny out there for me.
This will show him. And the rest. My name will be known one day.
Years from now, we will be judged by what we do in this moment.
No solution. Institution. Electrocution. Spread the wide. Rich and poor. Stop the war.
Who the is Charles Guiteau?
Ryan, I have a brief description of Death by Lightning. Would you like to hear it?
Of course.
This is a story of James Garfield, who rose from obscurity to become America's 20th president. And it's also the story of Charles Godot, the man who assassinated him. Help me
Yeah.
unpack that log line. What are we missing from that?
I honestly, from the show, nothing. One thing that if people listen to this who are big readers or history buffs, it's based on Candace Millard's 2011 book, Destiny of the Republic, A Tale of Madness, Medicine, and the Murder of a President. I didn't get medicine in this adaptation. I think they left that out, but it is definitely about madness. But I want to interrogate that. And then it is about the murder of a president. Also, the description should have said, "Are you ready for a killer cast?"
Yeah.
I mean, it's Matthew McFadden, Michael Shannon, Nick Offerman, Betty Gilpin, Shea Wiggum, Bradley Whitford. Wow.
Yeah.
Sign me up any day.
I think that if I had to put a little bit of clarity on this description too, I would say think less like John Adams series from PBS and think
Correct.
more Succession or Game of
Correct.
Thrones. Yeah. It is so incredibly watchable that when after the first 10 minutes of the show, I was just kind of like, oh, this is like a regular TV show. This
Yeah.
isn't like a put my thinking cap on show.
Yeah, and it's not like historical reenactment show.
Right. This is not masterpiece theater.
No. And one of the things that sets it off fairly quickly is that theme song is an
Yeah.
adaptation of "I'll Be Glad When You're Dad, You Rascal You" by Louis Armstrong, which here is covered by Hani El Khatib. There's also a nod to the present moment, I believe, with the choice of that song. But that's just me.
I think there's all kinds of things that are current day,
Which
with this
we can
storyline.
definitely unpack.
Well, maybe we can get into a little bit with our initial thought. What are your initial thoughts on Death by Lightning when you watched it the first time?
Well, I went into it purely for the cast because I'm a huge, like most people, or many people, Michael Shannon fan.
Mm-hmm.
Just day one, just love him. Seems to be a great human, phenomenal actor, talented musician. Anyway, I went in, and also Matthew McFadden. I'm going to come back to that later, as you can imagine. So really went in for the cast, to be completely honest with you. Wasn't quite sure what I was getting into. Had, I think, one or two people that I trust had, oh, you should check the show out. But my initial thoughts were exactly what you said. I thought it was completely and utterly riveting. We watched it in 2 sittings. We could have easily watched it in one. It's just 4 episodes. I think that's to its credit. So I loved it. I thought it felt completely modern.
Mm-hmm.
And of the moment, which I know we're going to talk about. But anyway, I highly recommend. One of the kind of a surprise show. I wonder if people will remember it next year for voting.
Yeah, I think that's a great question because it is a limited series. It's not like,
Correct.
There's a James Garfield part 2 sitting out there.
Correct.
But I would say that, yeah, I'm totally with you because it was recommended to me by older folks that I work with in the church. And I was like, okay, it's going to be one of those, and like some of these things
Like medicine.
sound, yeah, it sounds like homework, some of these historical dramas. It's so funny because usually when something looks like homework to me, I get into it and I find it incredibly interesting and, well crafted and all of those things. But it's just the setup, I think, whenever you set something in 150 years ago, it just kind of, it feels like it's going to have age to it and therefore severity and, all of that stuff. I think you're right. I think the cast does a lot of help with the material. And it makes me wonder too, because, Nick Offerman, obviously a comedian, but has done dramatic roles.
Yeah.
Betty Gilpin, the last thing that I can really say that I watched her regularly in was Glow, which again, sort of like a comedy drama. So I feel like there's a lot of comedy drama folks that kind of pad out this thing.
Matthew too. I mean,
and Bradley Whitford to a certain
all those
extent.
guys have that angle.
And I think that speaks to the tone of the show. There's something a little unserious about the story of James Garfield. And I wonder if it's because the shadow of Lincoln looms so large in American history, to have another assassination happen shortly after, and for it to just be a blip on the radar instead of a big deal, I think speaks to the absurdness of the whole story that's being played out.
Do you feel like, I think that's a great point. Do you feel like also our current moment and everything that we've been through as a country, let's just, since Garfield, but I mean, let's tone it down. Let's say since the 60s, I mean, our distrust of leadership, he's a very earnest figure.
Right.
And somebody, by all accounts, as the show would have us believe, is a man of profound integrity.
That's what it would seem like with his interactions with Frederick Douglass and all that. Yeah.
And we look back on that and we're like, okay, what a goof, like if we've just been so corrupt,
Right. Yeah.
that it's hard for us to take this seriously. I think that's a different angle than what you're saying, but I think it's part and parcel of the tone of the show too.
No, I think that's part of it. I mean, look, the first episode goes into, this idea of the Republican convention and this thought that there's no clear candidate, that's going to run. And so it's like, what ultimately is going to sway the hearts and minds? And I think that this is a good show for American politics in general, because I think that in our heart of hearts, we understand that corruption lies at the center of a lot of the wheelings and dealings that happen in DC.
Yeah.
And yet we still have these high-minded ideals of freedom, liberty, justice. And if you don't speak to those things, you're not going to get votes, right?
Yeah.
And so
or if you somehow try to expose the lie behind all of that.
Yeah.
Or the truth behind all of that, you're not going to get elected.
Yeah. And so we are Pollyannas with cynical hearts in America.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What's the best scene, sequence, episode, or storyline?
I've been waiting for you to ask me this question. Anything with Matthew McFadden in it.
He's such an odd duck in this.
God, he's so good. Character. Yeah, I know. I don't mean that as to be escapist or a cop out. I just really think he, as much as I love Michael Shannon, Bradley Whitford, Nick Offerman, I think that's it for me. If you want me to interrogate that, like dig down in that, it's any time where he feels shut out of the system, especially. His earnestness is great. I love all that, but when your heart breaks for him, and at the same time, it's also terrifying because you know what he's ultimately capable of, and what is driving him to that. So that for me, I was, as dark as that is, that's kind of where I went.
He's constantly introducing himself to the characters of the show. And multiple times. He introduces himself to Bradley Whitford multiple times.
Yeah.
Over the course of the show.
Yeah.
Same thing with Chester Arthur, played by Nick Offerman. He introduces himself multiple times. It's so interesting because we are following we're basically following parallel tracks. We're following Garfield's story and Godot's story. But because we're following Godot, that raises his sort of prominence in our minds. But in the minds of every other character on the show, he is like less than nothing. And it's such a remarkable thing to see play out over the course of the show, where it's like, is anybody going to remember this guy? Yeah. And that's actually one of the big themes, I think, overall with the show.
Of memory.
Yeah.
Yeah. Legacy. Yeah. Yeah. That's funny, walking around constantly introducing yourself to people, like no social media, no constant contact of not just the platform, but I mean like of email and text and all that stuff. Like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's such a weird guy. You would think that he would stand out, but
also memory. Is it also like, as part of this too, I think is the theme in the show, is this idea of celebrity, of politician as celebrity, or at least, You have to be a certain way.
Yeah.
Like, how many ghettos have you had in your churches? Ernest, want to help,
Yeah.
and you're just like, okay, let's do that, but let's tone it down a notch.
Exactly. Because the more you want it, the more weird you make yourself.
And what an a-hole thing to say is like, quit caring so much about this church or the future of the republic or whatever,
No, yeah, it's totally accurate. Listen, I'm not making light of this at all, because this is actually one of the things that I think is appropriate for like healthy boundaries and safeguards in like education, especially with children and youth. But one of the things that you are told as a children and youth leader is if someone is asking to participate in things a little too much, you tell them no, right? It's like, yeah, I love your enthusiasm, but you are not doing this work if you keep asking about it.
Yeah, why are you asking so much?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I will say this, the McFadden, this is a guy who's lost, right? Charles Godot is a lost guy. And so he's constantly finding himself in more and more bizarre circumstances, just looking for a place to belong. And the Mormon polygamy cult is maybe one of the most interesting things I've ever seen.
It's just like, oh yeah, they're over there fornicating by the cattle.
There you go. It's just like,
and now he's not even remotely interested in all the sex that he could be having. He's looking for community and purpose.
What it reminded me of was, did you get to see The Testament of Ann Lee this past year?
Not yet, man. I want to, though.
It reminded me of that, which is this idea that, when it's written into the Constitution that you have religious freedom, like there are people who are going to test exactly what it is that you mean by religious freedom.
Yeah.
And it's because people are
it's always sex and drugs.
And
always.
People are desperate to belong to something, you know? Yeah, absolutely.
And that really, I mean, for me, that is, I think that performance is award worthy. And I think that's the core of who he is he just wants to belong. And his sister loves him so much. Mm-hmm. And that's heartbreaking too. He's almost an addict.
Yeah.
He has an addict's behavior.
He steals and is sort of unrepentant about it. Yeah, absolutely.
He's got these grand visions of what can be. It's just around the corner, if only, Yeah, I think it's the engine that drives the show. Really, in my opinion.
Well, hopefully you'll enjoy the fireworks this weekend with your wife.
I shall be occupied toasting Conkling's demise.
Harriet changed the locks again.
You bet.
Robert, you're Secretary of War now.
Dad?
Get him! He shot him!
I did it! Take me to jail! Now Chester Rother will be president! The Republic is saved!
I guess for me, I'll take the sequence where Garfield is shot and ultimately assassinated. Because I think that we'll kind of get into this a little bit more, I think, when we unpack the big idea of the show and what kind of some of the themes of the show are. But this idea that he's actually fine, it's the treatment that's killing him.
I'd forgotten that element. There's your medicine.
Yeah.
Because it's the stubbornness of the doctor.
It's like a Twilight Zone episode breaks out, like over the last 30 minutes of the show. And it's just Because
the doctor is Zelko Ivanek. you won't know that name of the actor, but you will know his face. He's that guy from That Thing. He's always like the dark political operative or the
Oh
B
yeah,
villain.
he was on 24, right? He was
I
like the
think
bad
so.
guy in 24.
I think so. He's in Madam Secretary. Yeah, it was just three
Wasn't he on
billboards.
ER? Was he an ER guy too?
Man, I'm scrolling down his credits here on Google. He was in John Adams.
There you go.
Oh, he's also in that documentary that I always recommend to people. That guy who was in That Thing. The documentary about character actors, and
Yeah.
you know their face, but you don't, you can't remember their name.
Steven Tobolowsky and all those guys.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, yeah. So yes, say more of the medicine, the treatment, or the mistreatment.
Well, I kind of want to, unpack that a little bit more later. But yeah, just that whole sequence I found really riveting. It's like people want to save Garfield's life, but in the process of trying to save his life, they kill him. I don't know. It's just such a commentary on the whole show in general, but also just watching it play out. You're just kind of like, I'm so glad I live in the time that I do now, where my doctor doesn't just pull out their trusty scalpel that they've used on the last 100 people.
Well, it's funny that you say that, and then we look at who's running Health in America.
And then it's raw milk and
yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah.
One step forward. Yeah.
We can't win.
What's the best performance from the show? You said McFadden.
Well, I've already told you.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry to compress all that, but I will tell you I think Bradley Whitford's great in everything he does. It's really hard for me to, for me, I guess keep saying this McFadden, but all the kind of 3-4 lead characters here. I mean, Betty Gilpin's great.
Mm-hmm.
She knows she's losing her husband.
Right.
Either, I don't think she anticipates physically at first, but maybe she fears it, but certainly spiritually and emotionally, he's so consumed as one would be with trying to keep it between the ditches, Sorry.
No, I was going to say, I think the Offerman performance is interesting.
He's a dynamic character, isn't he?
Yeah, it's when you start unpacking the layers, because at first Chester Arthur's presented to us as just, a drunk and
sausages. I need sausages.
What, he's just a corrupt New York figure. Yeah.
Yeah. And he likes to drink and have a good time, but then you realize there's something else behind that.
Right. And then you start unpacking that, and it's like, oh, wait, he's lost his wife. Oh, wait, he actually did have high ideals and was corrupted by the system.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get that coda after he claims the office of the presidency, and you realize that he passes really progressive legislation. And so, and it's like, okay, Chester Arthur, I was not familiar with your game. Interesting.
Said you one time ever. I think, yeah, I love that. And it just speaks to the quiet influence that Garfield had, if that's how true that is. But even just as a story, as a narrative, I think it's one that we could potentially draw inspiration from. Garfield never berates him for being a drunk, right? Mm-hmm. He knows that he can be better. He knows who that person is, and he's constantly calling him to be that person.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly in ways that the doc, the trade commissioner, Shea Wiggum's character is appealing to that base nature, right? Yeah. And constantly putting people down. And Garfield's trying to lift him up. And I don't know, that's an interesting kind of dichotomy there.
I mean, that's the thing about historical fiction, right? That's what makes historical fiction great, is that you can take real life human beings and turn them into Shakespeare characters.
Yeah.
Chester Arthur may not have been this, but it doesn't matter. It makes for a good story, and we can talk about the devil on your shoulder versus the higher calling. Yeah.
This is not a history podcast. I mean, we've said from the start, this is a TV podcast.
It's a TV show.
Yeah. Yeah. And is it true? Is there truth in it? Absolutely.
Everybody gets in line, from the sewage worker on up. New York and its purse strings are closed.
I'll prepare one of my memorandums.
And break skulls if you have to. They want to reform the party out from under us. Let's oblige them. We'll sit on the sidelines, hands in our pockets, and deliver their sorry ass ticket to Kingdom Come. 4 years, they'll be begging us for Grant. So debacle will die a footnote. If that.
Understood.
Gentlemen, where is your candidate? Where's Garfield?
He left for his hotel, Senator.
What the hell is he doing there? Go. Get him here now. You. Go. Get him back here.
Right away, sir.
These delegates are getting restless. They want to go home. We need to put forth a running mate, and we need to do it now.
Well, I, for one, say we ought to nominate Senator James Blaine.
That's your brilliant idea?
You're the best man for the job.
That's an insult. It's the vice presidency. Besides, Garfield's coalition and my own are one and the same. I've got no extra support to give him. No, for us to have any chance at eking out a win in November, we need New York. New York has the largest vote share, biggest donor base, control of the papers.
You can't seriously be suggesting we offer the position to Conkling.
His politics are the definition of corrupt. He's a cancer on our party.
We don't need Conkling. We just need his machine. Someone who knows where the bodies are buried and how best to loot them. Might not be above.
Gets me to the big idea of the theology corner, which is like this idea that what's hidden can sometimes be sort of the most powerful thing. You know, this show starts with a group of archivists in Washington finding a human brain that they don't know who it is. They don't recognize the name that the brain belongs to. And this is one of the 4 assassins. We only have 4 assassinated presidents in this country. And this is one of the assassins, and no one knows who it is, right?
Let's pick up the pace, fellas. Clear all this stuff on out of here. Yo, Rico, get moving. Who the is Charles Guiteau?
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 That's French, isn't it?
Only by name, sir. I am as American as any man. Born in Illinois, Michigan, Wisconsin, New York.
So you've uprooted often then?
I go where the opportunity leads.
You said before us today, having been found guilty of false pretenses.
It was a misunderstanding, an honest mix-up between tenant and landlord.
And evading your arrest as well.
It's not how I recollect it.
We have a letter from your father.
From my father?
He says you've long been estranged, that you were occupied upstate within the Oneida Free Love Colony.
Well, he'd be mistaken. A suggestion alone is ludicrous.
To speak candidly, on behalf of the panel, Mr. Guiteau, you seem to us a liar and a fraud. We fail to see how you've served as anything more than a drain on good society.
And it's this idea of like this sort of festering, the sort of festering secrets and corruption and lies that undergird everything. And like, when does something become a big deal and when does it become lost to history? Yeah.
And I guess that's what you mean by the hidden. There's something different between hidden and forgotten. I wonder, do you see that as a tension here? Like, how do you mean?
I think that there's just a lot of backroom dealings that are happening in this show. And I think they feel true, which is to say that like the Republican convention is being orchestrated by the movers and shakers who have money and influence in New York, right?
Sure.
At the expense of the rest of the country.
Yeah.
And the election in Maine is being manipulated somehow, and Chester Arthur's vice presidency is being manipulated somehow. And like, I think that there's this side of us as Americans that are skeptical of institutions and particularly government. And we think that there's some sort of cabal or conspiracy that lies at the heart of it in our current day and age.
I'm not saying anything.
If you go on the internet right now, you will read about any kind of, things that are that may be happening with elected officials or not.
Illuminati. Everything that we're told America is, and we say we believe in, and the ideals, just feels like a cover for everything else you're talking about.
Right.
So that certain people, and that can fluctuate over time, can just do whatever the hell they want to do.
Yes, the powerful and the elite have all the access, all the breaks.
It's maddening.
And the Charles Godot's of the world have to fight and struggle. And then once they realize that they're being blocked out, they have to figure out how can they become the con artists to make their way into the halls of power.
I mean, and that's what drives me crazy about American patriotism. I mean, I always joke about the Pete Holmes thing. Like, you're not an American. You're living on a rock that's floating through space, and zoom out. You know, that kind of mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you happen to be a person of faith, I think it calls you out of that too, because you're suddenly connected to a family that's global, not just national.
You would think, and yet corruption exists.
And yet, you know, so like this idea, I checked out at a hardware store yesterday or a couple days ago, and this woman was like, "Would you like to take an American flag pin, and put it on your shirt?" I was like, "Not even a little bit. Not." Like, what am I in love with? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm also just not a flag waving type of person. I've just never been that type of person. But, you know, when you watch that show and what you're talking about, you know, we don't even know our own history.
Exactly. I think that's the part of it that absolutely, you know, blows my mind. And I get that this is historical fiction, but also, what did I know about Garfield before this show? Zero. Maybe even less than zero.
Had I ever heard Charles Guiteau? No. And second, you know, so yeah, I think that's it. I think it's inviting us to know more about our history. And sure, there are going to be embellishments in the show for, you know, creative license, and you got 4 hours, for God's sakes.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's also a reminder and encouragement to say who have been on the fringes of that, or the fringes of power. How are we trying to empower those people so that they don't turn to other means to feel powerful, which often is violence? And also to question, like, who is in power and what are their motives? And I mean, there have only been 4 assassinations, as you point out, but the dynamic that created that moment in this show and in that part of history is part of every decade of American history. I mean, it just may not result in an assassination, but it's resulted in violence in some shape or form, or whether that's exclusion or oppression or actual physical violence. And so, yeah, and then just this desire for community. How do we help, or how do we think about people belonging, especially people who, you know, and their enthusiasm may make us a little uncomfortable. I don't know, you know, so.
You know, I'll say this too. It feels like we're living in maybe the most corrupt time in American history. And I will not say that there's no corruption. There's a lot of corruption happening in the American government right now, specifically at the federal level, right?
We're just turning a blind eye to pedophiles.
I mean, it's just...
So I don't know how
it's that, but it's also just like, well, I mean, how much money are you going to give me? And I'll let you build your AI data center. You know, it's just like...
Oh, right here in Mississippi.
It's just a lot of, well, up in Florida, up in northern Florida. Yeah. It's always like areas that have high prison populations that get these data centers. You know, just the level of corruption and this idea that it's not ideals that win today, it's dollars, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like that feels just so prevalent now.
I was at a bit of a fundraiser meet and greet thing last week in Mississippi, and there was a conversation about the race in Georgia. John Ossoff is going to be $1 billion campaign.
Yeah.
I mean, that strikes me as profoundly amoral.
Right. Because that money's gone, right? You spend that money on promotion and it's gone. It doesn't go anywhere.
Programs, no infrastructure, no.
It's just burning money.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that the gift of the show is to show that actually this isn't a new thing. This is something that's just kind of always been baked into the system. However, and here's my but. Betsy and I just talked about Before Sunrise. That episode will air the week before this episode airs on our podcast schedule. And we were talking about that movie and saying this movie actually presents you a challenge. Are you willing to look at the world romantically, or are you going to look at the world cynically? And you actually get to choose. You get to choose how you see the world.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a little bit of that happening with Death by Lightning.
Yeah.
Are you
that's
going to
good.
be a Garfield or are you going to be corrupted? And the cool thing is that you get a character, Chester Arthur, who chooses to be a Garfield at the end of the day.
That's good. I think that's a good way to end. No, for real. Like you can like I mean I think about that relative to my use of social media and how I respond to events in the world and like how much fear I'm going to let into my life. Part of that is a choice. It really is. Part of that is doing the mental work to say, yeah, this is bad, but I'm getting a lot of this funneled to me to make me feel like it's bad.
Yeah.
Right? There are people that want me to feel this way. But if I suddenly took that part out of my life, what happens? Like I focus on my community. I focus on nature and walking the dogs and all the things you have to do to get through the day. But that aren't plagued by fear, right? But that can be quite beautiful.
You walk 10 pilgrimages on 6 continents.
Right. There you go. I like the cross promotion. You've got the synergy, I think is the word. Like, good deal.
Really quickly, speaking of cynicism and corruption, let's do a little bit of industry corner. Some dominoes have fallen since the last time we talked. Netflix is not going to own Warner Brothers.
ETL.
It's going to be Paramount Plus instead, and the Ellison family.
Yeah.
Who are now going to control Paramount, Warner Brothers, Discovery. So all of those platforms, which also include CBS Broadcasting, and Larry Ellison still controls TikTok. So are we screwed?
I just think the general answer to that is yes.
Okay.
So, and how and by whom? Like that's, look, I don't know. I mean, I work in the space and I just, some of the work that I do, it just doesn't impact. It doesn't matter. I mean, I think there's a trickle down effect there. But, in terms of like production in America, like, yeah, I mean, that's just taking a huge hit. And it doesn't matter who owns Warner Brothers, we've got, when we talk about like production, from a production perspective, there's so much more that needs to be addressed to correct that in this country. In terms of what we get access to, maybe. The types of stories that are told, maybe.
I will say this, and this show is a perfect example. There seems to be a real separation between art and production, which is to say, this is a conversation that we've had several times. I remember having this when we talked about I'm a Virgo showing up on the Amazon platform. I remember when we talked about The Boys. Like all of these shows are critiques of this very industry. And yet they're still getting airtime, right? They're still getting put out there for people to consume. They're not being buried. Yeah. And this is a show that deals with corruption and it's being put out there by Netflix. And it's like, okay, well, there you go.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know what that says, but it just means that projects that want to tackle these issues aren't being buried yet.
And that's a good thing. I've heard from different people that it's good for theaters if Paramount still believes in movie theaters and like the theatrical experience. So that's good. I would hate to see that just continue to decline because I still feel like there's value in these shared experiences, even if we are just watching Jurassic Park 20.
Yeah. All right. That's it. Death by Lightning in the books. Next up, Ryan, we're going back to Pilgrimage Land.
Let's go.
I set up an interview for us with the guy who wrote the book on literally wrote the book on multiple pilgrimages.
He knows some things.
His name is Sandy Brown. He's written guidebooks for the Camino. He's written guidebooks for the Way of St. Francis. He wrote the guidebook for the California Missions Trail.
Wow.
So this guy has not only a passion for pilgrimage, but a passion for sharing that passion with others. And so he's going to be our guest on the next PC Pilgrims episode next month.
Yeah.
Thanks for heading back into the past with me. I tell you what, why don't you wash off that scalpel before you try to take this bullet out of me?
I'll pour some whiskey on the blade.
They want to wash your hands. Oh my gosh. These doctors. Hey, I will say this. I watched enough Deadwood to know that the worst thing you can get in the Old West is a doctor. That's the guy that's going to end up killing you. So.
Yeah, I love it.
All right, we'll see you next time.
All right, thanks.
I'll be standing on a corner full of gin when they bring your dead body